Good morning, third graders. Today we're going to talk about how area is additive, which means that you can add two different areas and put them together. So what this looks like is you're going to have two different shapes. So for example, here we have rectangle A and rectangle B. So in order to add these together and find out the area of these shapes together, we would find the area of this rectangle first, of area A. Then we would find the area of rectangle B, and we would add those together. So we've been talking about the formula for area is length times width. So as long as you know the length and the width of both of these shapes, you can put them together to find the area of one of these irregular shapes. You're going to see things today like the words rectilinear. That means like a rectangle, and it means that all the shapes have a right angle. That means that they're all going to be squares and rectangles and have perfect angles that are straight. You're also going to see words like combined rectangles, which you can see are here. They look like two rectangles that are combined. So when you're doing that, remember, always remember this formula. Area equals length times width. So now we have this really strange looking shape right here. But remember, don't get discouraged when you see that and it asks for the area. Take it one step at a time and break these shapes up so that we can find the area of the whole thing. So let's take a look at rectangle A first. And I'm going to zoom this in to get a little bit closer for you. And what I'm going to do to help me and not get distracted by all these numbers that I see is I'm just going to use my fingers to cover up anything that's not in the area that we're talking about, because I just want to find the rectangle of this shape. So before we can do that, let's analyze what we see here. We see that this side is 4 inches. This whole thing here is 5 inches. This side's 6 inches, 2 inches, and we have 3 inches here. So let's cover up, like I said before, the second rectangle. And I have 3 numbers I can see here. And remember, area is only length times width. So I only need 2 numbers to look at. So I'm going to look here, and I notice that 5 runs this whole thing. That goes into rectangle 2, or rectangle B. So it's not the 5 I'm looking at. I'm looking at the width of 4 inches, and I'm looking at the length of 3 inches. So the area of this first rectangle right here is 12 inches because 4 times 3 is 12. Now we have our second rectangle over here. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to cover this up so that I'm not distracted by those other numbers. I'm not distracted by those other rectangles. And I see that the length is 6 and the width is 2. So the area of this shape right here is also 12 inches. So now we know that in order to find the area of the whole shape, we do 12 inches squared, which is the area of the first rectangle, rectangle A, and 12 inches here, inches squared, which is rectangle B, and then we can add them together to find the area of this shape. And we know 12 plus 12 is 24 inches squared. So we'll write that. 24 inches squared is our total area. So I'm going to show you a situation where I might use this. Let's say I am making an animal castle for Leo. And I'm going to make him a little playpen here. And I'm going to say that this is 3 feet and this is 4 feet. And I decide that in his little animal castle, I want to build him this launch ramp right here so that he can get in his castle. And let's say this is 2 feet by 1 feet. So my job, when I'm looking to buy supplies, I need to figure out how much area Leo is going to have in his castle. So let's see. We're going to look at the first rectangle, and we see that it's 3 times 4. So the area of the first rectangle is 12 inches square. That would be very, very small. Let's do 12 feet squared. And then here we have 2 times 1. So that means that 2 times 1 is 2 feet squared. So Leo's whole huge castle is going to be 12 feet squared plus 2 feet squared. And we're going to add those together to see how big the whole thing would be. And that would be 14 feet squared. So let's take a look at what that looks like here. This shape gets a little bit complicated because I see where this could be 3 different rectangles. But that's okay, that's easy. All I have to do is break them up so that I can easily see the area of each one. So your job is to figure out where we can break these evenly so that it's easy. Because if I were to break it up right here, that would be a little bit complicated. It wouldn't be a perfect rectangle. So I'm going to break it up right here along this line because that gives me a perfect rectangle right here. I'm going to add another line right here because that would give me a perfect rectangle right here. So as you can see, I have 1, 2, 3 perfectly shaped rectangles. And that way I'm not having to sit here and count every single box. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That would take way too long. If I break it up like this, I can just count the areas here and add them together. So let's see. We know the width of this is 3. And we know the height of just this rectangle is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is 6. So instead of counting them all out, we know that 6 times 3 is 18. So there are 18 units here. Let's look at our next rectangle. I'm going to fold this over so we're not distracted by any of those other rectangles. So we see here that the width is 3. 1, 2, 3. And let's see how long it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The length is 8. So instead of counting each of these, we can just say 3 times 8 is 24 units. Last but not least, we'll go over to our last rectangle, just this section right here. And let's count to see how many. 1, 2, 3. I'll do it down here so it's easier to see. 3 is the width, units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is how many units it is long. So 6 times 3 is 18. So now all we have to do is add these together. 24 plus 18 plus 18. And that will give us the total area of all these shapes. So 8 plus 8 is 16, plus 4 more is 20. 2 plus 2 is 4, 5, 6. So the total area of this shape right here would be 60. Now instead of me going through and counting and losing count, all I had to do was break those up and add them together, and that helped me find the area. So what I have here is a few floor plans of a house. Now, these are the shapes that you will see, and your job is to figure out where you're going to break them up. So let's see what we have. I see we have 2 shapes. Now So I always say in my class you can go up and down or side to side. Now, let's see what the smarter move is to do here. If we go side to side, I can easily see what numbers I'm multiplying by. Oh, and you guys can't see. I'm sorry. Let me plug the camera back in. Loading. There we go. Okay. So side to side, you can see that we would be left with this. And we see 2 and 3 and 3 and 6. We could also go up and down. And then we see 6 times 2. But it would be a little bit harder to do this here because we'd have to split 6 up into 2. So when you're making these, be thinking about how you want to split this up so that it's easiest for you to solve. So I'm going to do side to side because I can clearly see the numbers that I need to work with. So let's figure out the area of this first shape here. I see 6 is the length of this whole thing. So that's not what I'm looking at because I just want to look at this part right here. So let's see. I have 2 and 3. So area is length times width. So 2 times 3 is 6. Now I'm going to look at just this shape right here. And I see that the length is 6 and the width is 3. So 6 times 3 is 18. So now remember, we're learning that area is additive. So we need to add 18, the area of this rectangle, plus 6, the area of this rectangle, to figure out how many in all. So 6 plus 8 is 14. 1 plus 1 is 2. So the total area is 24. I see that my unit is meters. And remember, with area, everything is always squared. So 24 meters squared. Let's do one more together. So remember, we can always choose whether we want to solve this up and down or side to side. So I could put my little line here and have these boxes to solve. Or I could put it here and have these boxes to solve. Either way, you're going to get the same area because no matter what the numbers are, it's the same shape. It's not going to change. So I'm going to do it right here. Break it up. And let's see, I see here that for the first rectangle, I have 4 times 2. So 4 times 2 is 8. And we can write feet squared if you'd like. Now we're looking at the second rectangle. And I'm going to block this off because I don't want to get distracted by the 9. The 9 was talking about this whole length here. So I'm going to block this off. And I see that I'm left with 5, which is the length or width, and then 8, the length. So let's figure this out. 5 times 8 is 40. So if you were to add these together, 40 plus 8 is 48. We're talking about feet, and area is always squared. Let's say that we did decide to break it up the other way. So I'm going to make the line here instead. You know what? I'm going to redraw this for you so you don't get distracted by the lines. I want you guys to be able to clearly see how this works. So 5, 6, 4, 2, 9, 8. Okay. So same shape, same numbers. Remember, before I decided to break it up and down. This time I'm going to break it up by going side to side. Okay, so instead we're going to be looking at this shape right here. So I see that the width is 2 and the length is 9. So the first rectangle we have is 2 times 9, which is 18. And we were working with feet. Now the second rectangle is right here. Now, at first I would think it's 8, but if you look, 8 is talking about this whole piece right here, which was going into the second rectangle. So I don't want the 8. I'm looking for this number right here. I'm looking at that 6 because 6 shows the length of this rectangle. So 6 times 5 is 30. So if we add 18 plus 30, we also get 48 feet squared. So earlier we said that this was 48 feet squared. We see it's also 48 squared here, so it doesn't matter how you break them up. Try which way is easiest for you and has the best numbers that you can work with. So today, when you're working on it, remember, divide them up evenly. Remember to multiply area and then add them together. There's also a little activity where you can design your own dream house. That is one of the slides. And you're able to come up with rooms and have them be different sizes and then add all the rooms up to see how big your house is. So have fun with this today, guys. Please let me know if you need any help and have a happy Friday. Bye.